welcome. My name is David Silberman. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Clinical Research Fastrack, and it's my great honor and privilege to have Sayira Furnish with us today. Sayira Furnish is a graduate of our program, and she's going to be joining us on this podcast, Fast Track to Success. And this is a podcast where we talk about extraordinary people doing extraordinary things in the field of clinical research. And I just want to thank you, Sayira, for being with us today. Let's just kick things off. Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Sayira Furnish. I was in Clinical Research Fastrack. The class was in October of 2018. And since January of 2019, I have been working. So it didn't take long, working in clinical research. I started with PRA Health Sciences, which I think it's been about 4 years, was acquired by Icon. So I've worked, my time has been with the CRO, Clinical Research Organization, the entire time. And I'm presently a project manager there.
Let's take you back. I want to go back in time. We're going to go back before you were in class.
Okay.
What were you doing before you were in class? In fact, and what was your education before starting those roles?
When folks ask me what was I doing, it's like, what was I not doing? College was, my plan was to go to veterinary school. There was not a particular major for that where I was attending school, so I was a psych major. And then afterwards, I had a series of jobs. Things didn't work out as planned, and I never made it to veterinary school. So I mainly did office positions in various health adjacent situations, whether it was Medicare. So when I found out about Clinical Research Fast Track, I was actually at a bit of not low point, but kind of stuck point. Positions that I had recently worked hadn't been working out. I decided to take a cross-country GPS data collecting job because it meant I didn't have rent, I didn't have utilities, I could pay off some debt. And it also bought me time to figure out what to do next because I had no clue. And then I came across Clinical Research Fast Track, and I was like, oh, that's that amazing field that I had a bit of a run-in with. And it turns out, it's something I could possibly do.
Wow. So you're sort of in administrative positions, and then you were trying to figure out your next move. And why
Mhm.
clinical research? What was it that drew you to clinical research?
At the time, because I didn't have the clearest image of it, um, the way most of my jobs tended to run, it was I'd learn the job fairly quickly. And then I get attracted to processes, seeing the gaps, how can we improve? And I like working with teaching folks. Um, there wasn't a lot of opportunity with that with a lot of the positions I was in. And a lot of times they weren't very open to process improvements. They didn't see that as a strength or a skill. Clinical research seemed to be the opposite of that. It was very merit-based. They looked for various strengths. It wasn't about knowledge base. It was about what you brought to the table. How hard were you willing to work? Were you willing to learn? And then the aspect of it, at that point, I was not a kid anymore. I think I was already mid-40s. So the fact that we were hearing that clinical research was a field where you could advance very quickly, you can make up ground really fast, that was really attractive as well. So I figured it was my best option.
Um, Fantastic. And you entered into our program, um, and you moved into a role pretty quickly at PRA Health
Mhm.
Sciences. What was that first role? What did they hire you into from our class?
Um, well, the way I even got into the position, there was an in-house CRA who saw the little 30-second video on my LinkedIn page. So very direct result of the Clinical Research Fast Track program, because that was the video that we had basically built in that program, as well as the LinkedIn connections. And she told me flat out, she saw the video and she said, that's somebody I think I'd like to work with. So she used the PRA Health Sciences referral program to help me with my application. I also got help with the interview process from someone connected to Clinical Research Fast Track, which was huge. And so I entered in what it's not a role that exists anymore. It was a combination role they had at the time where you were both an in-house CRA and a project assistant, which was basically the administrative support for the study team.
Wow. So you were hired on as an in-house CRA and project assistant.
Yeah.
and that's where you started.
Hmm.
Can you talk about your career progression? And first of all, what did that mean, in-house CRA project assistant? What was that role? And then where have you gone from there?
In-house CRA, I'm used to it being a fairly standard field term. So you've got the clinical research associates, which it seems like everybody hears about because they travel. Everybody wants to travel at the beginning. Um, and so they're the ones jetting around and going to the sites and checking on everything on site. Whereas the in-house CRAs, they're back in the offices. They never set foot on the site, but they're the primary contact for the site because unlike the CRAs who could be in the air at any time, you can always reach the in-house CRA. So it was my role to make sure that the site's needs were met. If not by me, then I would, get the folks that were needed to resolve the issue. I supported the CRAs in preparing for their visits. I handled the documentation that came from the sites and building up the trial master file. So it was very involved with the clinical side, a little bit administrative, but you basically supported the site through the maintenance phase of a study to close out. And then, like I said, the project associate was more administrative for the study team across the board.
Fantastic. Okay, and from there, how long were you in that role, and then what came next for you?
Um, I actually took a little longer in that role than was required. So you really move as fast as you want to. The combination role was dissolved. I think about a year after I got there, and we had to decide, did we want to stay with clinical or did we want to move over to project delivery? I noted that as a project associate, I could see a study from beginning to end, which was not an option as an in-house CRA. Not unless, well, you've got the startup associates, which are like the in-house CRAs, but just for getting sites activated. So they kind of stay in their zones. Project associates support the project manager from beginning to end. Um, Interact with all the functional areas. So there was a lot more to learn there. And I stayed in that, I think it was in my third year that I moved up to associate project manager, which is their kind of introductory role and program to being a project manager. That was only for a year, and then I moved up to project manager. I've been both regional project manager on larger studies as well as a global project manager, so the sole project manager on a smaller phase 1 study.
So you've been a regional project manager and a global project
Hmm.
manager. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
impressive. I know those are big jobs, and some of these studies can have a lot of logistics,
Mhm.
um, and that is fantastic. Are there any studies that you have worked on, that you have been around, that have been exciting, medical breakthrough? Anything that you can share with this?
Except at the very beginning, I was on a study or two for like the big guys, Janssen and Janssen or Gilead, but most of my time in the field have been with small biotechs. And in fact, they've made that more concrete, and that's our department now. We only work with small biotechs, those of us in that group. And when it comes to small biotech, like every molecule, every drug is like a baby. They love that. So when they teach you about the drug, everything sounds like the next medical breakthrough because they know it that well and they're that invested in it. I also am fascinated now with something I didn't realize back when I was in clinical research fast track, which is we think medical breakthrough, we think life and death, cures and such. And what I've learned over my time on studies is it's not always about the life and death. It's not always about the cure. You can be bringing a drug that is the same level of effective as standard of care, except that it has a more preferred vehicle of delivery. It's less invasive. It gives better quality of life, fewer trips to the doctor, less nausea, less pain. And that is a massive difference in people's lives. So, yeah, medical breakthrough doesn't mean the same to me as it used to.
Well, you're making an incredible point, because if you have pain or discomfort, and I use the example of a toothache. If you have a
Mm,
toothache, you can think of nothing else but your toothache.
yep.
But if you're able to come up with a treatment or a device that can alleviate that discomfort, and all of a sudden you can be with your family and you can get through your day in a much more positive way, that's everything. And
Yes.
that is really the magic
Hmm.
of some of these treatments. So it's not like you said, not just life or death. It's really about improving the quality of our days. Really an important point. Um, and the point that these trials can last years,
Yep.
right? This is a
Yep.
field where there's so much science there's so much intentionality behind these drugs. And as we know, from the time we start to getting approved drug, it can be 8, 10 years,
Yes, easily.
typically.
Hmm.
Uh, okay, I want to go through a lightning round. I got some questions for you. We want to have a little bit of fun. What's your favorite moment of the job? I know you've been looking back so many years, but what's a favorite moment you want to share?
The first time I had a chance to have some small talk with the study team, because it struck me, I was working for a global company that had never been an option before. And so here I was working with people from 10 different countries. At the same time, when we were talking clinical research, everybody was on the same page. You don't get too many opportunities for something like that.
Amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Okay, next question. Most surprising moment on the job.
When I was still a project associate, and I received an acknowledgement in writing from the CEO of our biotech client that we were running the study for. And what I learned from that was it's all about FaceTime. It's all about getting yourself in front of people. I've seen folks that are very capable, very integral to a study, very high up, but they don't ever share time with the client. They don't make themselves known. Even just having their voice heard, especially now that everything's so remote. Um, and so they get forgotten, or the client flat out isn't interested in working with them because there's no relationship there. Relationships are huge in clinical research. So don't let your role kind of decide how much interaction you have. Take advantage of any opportunity because you never know. That write-up was huge for me. That really helped out when it came evaluation time.
That's a beautiful story. That's fantastic. Here's another question for you. What's the larger impact you want to make? What is it about this role or this industry that's special, and that what impact you want to make in the industry?
Being involved, you're going to impact people's lives. That's what I got into it for. What I've really become fascinated with now is the folks who are coming into work at our CRO now. A lot of them are on the younger side, and clinical research is so fluid. You really build your own path. You can go in whatever directions you want. There's never a reason to be bored. There's never a reason to be stuck. I'm doing a lot now with mentoring, and not just for folks who are interested in my role, but just a study team, period, which it's one of the things that's good about having taken interest in all the different functional areas coming up is I have a good enough sense that I can connect with all those folks on my study team. So that's the impact I want to make now, is to develop and keep that talent so that we can continue to be excellent at running these very important trials in future.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, so you brought up mentoring, which is a perfect segue into our next question. What advice do you have for new people coming into the industry? Some people are going to be deciding on taking our program, and they're thinking, how do I best enter the field? What advice do you have for people who are new to the industry?
Well, I will say Clinical Research Fast Track, I mentioned a little already, directly responsible for me to be able to get into the field and get into it in a good place. When it came to my interview, the managers, it was two managers who were interviewing me, they told me afterwards what impacted them during the interview, which was really great to hear. I remember at one point, because they made very clear, we don't expect you to have experience in this. We just want an idea, kind of what you know. And they asked me, do you know what essential documents are? And we had drilled on that in Clinical Research Fast Track. It was not the only thing, but it was a big deal. You guys prepared us massively for whatever they were going to throw at us. And I rattled them off with a brief summary of each. And then I said, is that what you were looking for? Did you want me to go into more detail? And later on, they said that was one of several things that impressed them. And one of the managers even admitted she didn't know them in that detail. So I was way over prepared. So Clinical Research Fast Track will prepare you. So even if it sounds weird, just trust them. And then the other is take any opportunity to get in the field. It doesn't matter what the role is, just if it gets you in the door, that's what matters. Because it's really easy then to move to roles that you want. And also, there's no small role in clinical research. Like I said, I was a project associate and admin, and yet without us, the study team couldn't complete what they needed. And it also gave me the advantage of learning the entire study team and study process. So don't don't rule anything out. Get in the door, um, and never downplay your role in a study. Whatever you're doing is getting that study from beginning to end, and it's impacting somebody's life.
That is such great advice. In clinical research, there is no small role. Just get in. And once you have the training and you can speak about the essential documents, you can speak the language, that will help you get started. But you got to get started, right?
Yep. Yep.
The great quote that we always share is, "You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great." And um, wow, Sayira, did you have anything else you want to share with our audience? This has been some great insights, and I've been taking notes, and I know we're really happy to share this with others. But is there anything else that we didn't touch on?
Don't be afraid to talk to folks. I did not know anything about LinkedIn when I started. I was very nervous about talking to these folks in a field that I hadn't really wrapped my brain around. Clinical research is a really, like you guys told us this, but you don't understand it till you get into it. Clinical research is a small field. Everybody knows everybody at some point. And generally they behave that way. So you're not dealing with folks who are going to be very rigid or hierarchical. Generally, they're very pleasant. They're very amicable. They're looking to help out. Take advantage of that. If you're going to get into this field, that's one of the benefits. Um, just reach out, ask for support before and after you get into the field. That's a lot of what moves you up, is not just how hard you work and how willing you are to learn, but reaching out and saying, hey, I'm interested in this. Can you help me out? Find me somebody who I can shadow, somebody who's willing to talk to me about what it's like to be a data manager or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, you'll get exactly what you ask for.
Fantastic. Well, you've shared so much great advice. You've talked about the importance of relationships, mentorship, getting started. This has been fantastic. Sayira Furnish, thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to learn about your career, and we're so honored just to have been a little catalyst to help you get into the field. But now you're doing amazing things. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity to share. I'm 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 thrilled with the program. I know you'll help hundreds more to move into the field, and we definitely need it.